Hello and welcome to the Hotline Live with Record Sport. My name is Daniel Caw and I'm delighted, over the moon, to be joined
Delighted and over the moon.
to be joined by my esteemed colleagues Keith Jackson and Andy Newport. Guys, how's it going?
Yeah, not bad.
Mildly hungover. Mild, just ever so slightly.
Well, I have a suspicion.
Andy's hanging by a thin thread here.
I have a suspicion there might be other people watching Andy who are in the same boat.
Yeah.
The perfect antidote, I think, is
Cure, if you like. There you go.
Aye, exactly. A wonderful football chat, and that's what we do. I think the best place to start, Tannadice. We're obviously broadcasting live after Rangers 1-0 win against Dundee United. It wasn't a classic, Andy, but a vital win for Philip Clement.
Absolutely what he needed after what's been a really bruising couple of weeks for him and his team. I think we've been fairly pleased with how the first sort of 25 minutes went. Rangers were in total control, looking good, actually looking pretty lively. Obviously, some of the players coming back into the team, Kieran Dowell, for a sort of surprise start. Given Václav Černý was out with illness, and then Oscar Cortes back after his hamstring trouble. So they looked sprightly, they were energetic. There was, they looked like they weren't having any sort of hangover after that Old Firm defeat. And then fair play to Jim Goodwin, he changed it up a wee bit, changed the shape, seemed to allow United to get a bit of a foothold. But honestly, never really caused Rangers all that much issues. There was a deflected strike in the second half that sort of would have been going out for a throw-in. I think they managed to just sneak past Jack Butland's post. But I think in the end, Rangers were pretty comfortable without being spectacular. Obviously, a good goal by Tom Lawrence as well. Something I think most Rangers fans will agree they need to see more from him. So a really sort of encouraging run and finish. But I think the concern would just be that they had chances to really put this game to bed much earlier, and they didn't take it. And that's been one of Rangers' issues for a long time. It's just that profligacy and wastefulness in front of goal. So, listen, I think they'll just be pleased to get the result, get 3 points, and sort of try and put that Old Firm defeat a couple of weeks back to bed.
Keith, Gary Mackay, watching live on Facebook, says 3 points away from home, job done. That was all it was really about today for Rangers, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Certainly going into the game, that was really all that mattered for Rangers. Actually, like Andy, I thought there was some decent interchanges of play between in the kind of final third between the attacking players. And I actually thought they started off really, it was quite exciting. But as Andy correctly says again, a tactical tweak by Jim Goodwin sort of nullified a bit of that. Didn't really make United an attacking force, but it made it more difficult for Rangers to play through them. And I think, at the end of the day, yes, 3 points was exactly what was required. I'm sure that Philip Clement would have preferred for them to stay on the front foot a little bit longer. As Andy says again, get another goal, make it comfortable. Because there were moments towards the end of the second half where you're thinking, if United can get a break here, then it could be another couple of points drop for Rangers, which was the last thing they could afford, especially after what's been a really traumatic kind of 48 hours going into the game with John Bennett having to step down as chairman. And I think, first and foremost, we should wish him all the very best and a full and speedy recovery.
Absolutely. One guy that did provide a kind of highlight for Rangers today, Andy, was Hamza Ingame. He's definitely got a lot of attention on social media. Charles Allen here, he looks top quality. Looking forward to seeing more of him. Strong as an ox. What did you make of his performance today?
Yeah, I mean, I was. I think Rangers fans should be encouraged by it. I was texting some friends going, "Wow, a Rangers centre forward that can hold the ball up and has actually got a first touch." It was a novelty. It was certain things there to like about him. And I thought when he came on at Celtic Park a couple of weeks back, the game was gone at that point by the time he came on, but there was a couple of wee flashes there that I thought, that looks intriguing, and I thought he sort of built on that today. So I think there is a wee bit more honest about him in certain aspects. But
he's as raw as a pound of Moroccan mince.
But, I mean, like, you know, the basics are there. You know, he controls the ball. He's direct. He wants to get shots off. So I think, you know, he's close with that header from the Tavernier's corner. You know, it's a matter of, you know, what, a foot away to give him get himself his first goal. So listen, I think one thing we know with Luke Clement and these type of things, that he's cautious. I wouldn't expect to see him thrown at the starting lineup next week against Dundee. Maybe listen, perhaps that's maybe if you're going to throw him in, that's maybe the game to do it. But I would tend to think that you'll see him dripped in bit by bit over the coming weeks. But listen, I think Rangers fans need to be seeing this guy. You know, they spent £2 million on him. You know, they signed him when they could have went and signed, you know, somebody with experience and proven quality. So I think Rangers fans get every right to expect this guy's going to make a contribution. But, you know, on first impressions, and that's all it is, just first impressions, he looks like he's got something to offer.
You can see flashes, Andy, can't you? With just sheer instinctive, natural ability that he's got. And to be fair, I don't know if Clement handled it in the cleverest of ways when he said right at the start that this guy's just nowhere near first team ready. Couldn't even train with the first team.
But that was bizarre. That was really weird.
Yeah, I
was there when he said that. I was sitting. We were in pre-season when he said that, and I wonder if that's just a sort of lost in translation type thing. I think he was trying to suggest that this guy, he's been out of, you know, he's been on holiday. He'd had kicked a ball for 2 months. And I think he was trying to say that, but I think you're right. I mean, he's paid £2 million for the guy. You should be expecting this guy's going to come in and make an impact. So, no, definitely. I mean, I think listen, he's got a couple of appearances under his belt now. I think the next thing is to see him, you know, play longer, start games, and then the big thing is they need to see him scoring goals. So, I mean, as much as Cyril Dessers had a fairly decent start to the season by his standards, I don't think any of us are sitting here thinking that he's the finished article and that he's the guy that Rangers should be relying upon. He's proven at his time in Scotland that he's erratic. You know, 1 minute he can be awful, next minute he does something that you're, wow, but there's probably more of the moments where you're sitting going, well, that was a bit rotten than the good moments. I mean, as much as he scored 22 goals last season, I still stand by it. I think he should have been nearer 40. So he certainly had the chances for that. So, you know, I think that it can only be a good thing, you know, to be Danilo's injury issues that for Rangers, that they've got a striker to push him and, you know, try and, at least if he's going to stay in the team, he has to be playing well. So at least if you get Igamani there coming through and going flashes, then, you know that he's got some competition coming.
Well, that's the thing I was going to say about Igamani. You now start to see, maybe it was clumsily worded by Clement, what he said about him at the start, but you do see a little bit, you know, I'm saying as raw as a pound of Moroccan mince. So you do see that, but I've seen enough in two short, albeit short cameo displays to think there is a talent there, and maybe now that you're getting a look at him, you can understand why Clement wasn't in a rush to throw him in. He's probably had to do quite a lot of work with him tactically in the training ground, but there seems to me to be enough raw potential and talent in this boy that should give Rangers fans cause for a bit of excitement. And I think because Dessers is having to carry the workload and be the sort of only number 9 that's available, I think it is more than likely that Clement will want to try and bleed this boy in, and it might well be start him against Dundee and, you know, and let him just carry a bit of the weight. I certainly think there's movement, there's a good first touch. Yet to see, you know, is he more clinical than Dessers? Dessers was again doing Dessers things today, where he takes extra touches every time he gets into the 6-yard box. And yet, you know, the ball that he plays through, he had an assist for the only goal of the game, and it was a lovely touch. And there was a couple of lovely touches for Dessers, but that's it. You know, 1 minute he's doing something where you think, oh my God, that's really intelligent, good football, and then he just seems to fall apart when he gets inside the 6-yard box or with a sight to goal. It just always seems to want to take, you know, 3 touches when one will do. And I've lost count of how many goals that he probably should have scored from these situations, that he sort of kind of runs into trouble, you know, overthinks it, takes too many touches. And I think what Rangers are crying out for is an instinctive striker, a goal-getter, a poacher. And it'd be interesting to see this young Moroccan boy, if that's in his locker as well, because there are signs that he's got quite a bit.
Absolutely. Look, we had these two comments come in back to back, which I just thought was really interesting to show you where Rangers are. So I'll start with this one. Andy Cairns is buoyed by today's win. We are at our most dangerous when backs against the wall. As underdogs, we're just getting started. And right after it, Rob Jones, who is a regular Rangers fan in the Hotline Live, said, a lot of fans have lost patience with Clement's constant nonsense. If he's not rambling about XGs, bragging about beating Ross County, my faith in him is gone. So, Andy, today, Rangers simply couldn't lose. They simply could not afford to lose or even drop points in that game. But still a long way to go.
Yeah, listen, they told us nothing we didn't know about this Rangers team already. They will be better or good enough to beat most teams in this league. I mean, they will. I still think they'll finish second eventually. But at the end of the day, it's all about, in Glasgow, that matters nothing. It's about what you do against the other lot. And Rangers have proven themselves time and time again to be second best to Celtic. So, listen, it's a morale boosting win. It's a victory that will make them feel about themselves a bit better about themselves for the next few days. But listen, this Rangers team has got some serious work needing done on it if they're going to be anywhere close to being title challengers. So, whether that can be done this season or we're talking multiple windows in order to get this Rangers team knocked into shape, and we'll have to hope that Celtic don't improve in that time as well, which might be wishful thinking. So, listen, good result today, but it's much work to be done, as you said.
Did you not think they need to do it in sort of incrementals? I looked at that particularly the first 10, 15 minutes today, and what I'm looking for, just like you, I think the league title, they can forget about it this season. But I think what Rangers fans should be looking for, what I would be looking for in Clement as well, is to see signs of a defined style of play, something different, something so that they know what it is that he's working towards and what he's trying to achieve. And again, first 10, 15 minutes today, the amount of times I saw Rangers breaking lines with sharp forward passing, that wasn't there last season because they were very laboured going through the centre of the pitch with Lundstrom. And it was slow and it could become turgid and it was very predictable. Today, in the first 10, 15 minutes, the amount of sharp passes up to the more forward players, breaking through lines, I thought that was really interesting. And I've seen signs of this, and I think I've commented on it a couple of times with Diomande and Barron, that I do see a difference to the way that they're trying to build from the middle of the pitch. It is quicker, it is more incisive. I think if we can build on that, and if that is going to be the style of play, then you could start to say, well, you're starting to see what it is that Clement is trying to build. Now, whether or not he can get there is another thing. But I think right now, the Rangers fans in general, they're probably not too optimistic about their title chances this season. But I think if they get to the end of the season and they've got a team that plays the kind of football they want to see, and it's not just the long ball stuff and, what is it, winning the duels, as Clement says, but there's actually a bit of structure and strategy to what they're doing. And just in flashes, you see little bits. And I thought that was certainly the case in the first 10, 15 minutes today. I actually thought it was quite impressive.
It's a bit that takes me back to Steven Gerrard sort of time, when every year, obviously the first couple of seasons, they fell short in terms of winning that trophy that they've been craving. But you could see that there was progress getting made. You could see that they were taking another step forward, and okay, they might then falter at some point as they did. And I think we all have to agree that COVID kind of maybe came at a good time in certain ways for Rangers in terms of, well, one, it sort of coincided with Celtic's collapse, but Steven Gerrard was half out the door after those defeats to Hearts and Hamilton at home. But even that reset allowed them just to move the team on a wee bit more further forward. And I think that's what you're now looking for with Clement. If the fans are to keep faith with them, they have to have spells like, as you're saying, they have to see these spells become longer than 25 minutes. It has to become a half. It has to become an hour. Blah blah blah. So as long as it's moving in the right direction, then I think they will, because I do think, I mean, we're talking about, obviously he came in, he had such a good start, gets him right back into a title race that none of us thought was going to be achievable. But then injuries happened. I think that that rocked him. Obviously, he was able to play. I think there was a style of play early on, but I think the injuries absolutely ripped that away from them. Losing Cortez, losing Sima, I think just robbed them of so much of their invention in the final third that they did then become that plodding, just sort of one pace side that you're talking about, Keith. And then obviously then you're just you're losing, what is it, 16 players over the summer, and then you're trying to bring in another 11, and they're all in the key areas. The guys are centre backs, it's wingers, it's centre midfielders. You're trying to you're trying to bed in guys in the absolute spine of your team, the key areas, and that's obviously going to take time. He's talked about this, the movements, the way they want to play. I think you did see that. Cortez coming short and going in behind. Barton dropping in sort of deep, trying to make that a back three really, so you can push the full backs higher on. You saw the signs of that. It's just going to take time to get them drilled into it. But as long as it keeps on, those spells that we're talking about become longer and they become more dominant and they take more chances, then the fans will stick with them. But if it returns to that style that you're talking about from last season, then people get fed up with it, and that's when the pressure starts to build, especially if they don't get results.
There's another thing that sometimes I find difficult to work out, and that's his in-game decision making and some of the substitutions he makes. Sometimes I'm baffled as to what it is that he's trying to achieve. That was a little bit the case today. I was surprised to see Cortez going off at half time, for example, when there were other changes that could be made if he wanted to get his other new boy into the team for 45 minutes. Sometimes I find that strange. I mean, were you confused by the substitution?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those ones. Obviously, I wasn't at Tannadice today, so that it didn't get to ask the question. But I would have been. I just wonder if the Cortez thing. We know he's such a stickler in terms of doing what physios and doing what sports scientists tell him. And I just wonder, obviously, Cortez been out for a few weeks with this hamstring injury. I just wonder if the sports scientists have said to him no more than 45 minutes and he's returned. I just wonder if that wouldn't surprise me if it was that. But I must admit, I thought he was it's as good as I've seen Cortez. I mean, I think it's hard to get excited about this guy because we've got such a small sample size of games, and he's not really done much this season. You're really only talking about the game against Hearts where he scores early goals. Is probably the only game that you can sit there and go, wow, he was good that day. So, I mean, I thought he was bright. Certainly, as I say, the first 25 minutes when him and Yefty seem to have the run of that sort of left-hand flank where United sort of worked out and sort of switched to a four-man back four, and that sort of allowed them to sort of nullify those sort of wee 1-2s that the two of them are playing down that side. So, but yeah, no, listen, it's. I mean, even just the bringing in Kieran Dowell's a kind of strange one as well, just for the start. I mean, I must say, I think he does like Dowell as much as he's not really played. I think there's been a few times where he sort of turned to him and plucked him from sort of left field, and you always.
Dowell actually did okay today.
Yeah, I thought he was good. Yeah, I mean, but again, he's just a bit of a. If you were to sum up, Kieran Dowell's just a bit mental. I mean, he's just
a bit beige.
You're just like, what is it he really does? Obviously, he came up to Norwich. It was like he came up with quite a good sort of reputation for down there, but I really struggle to see what he does. What's his big thing? Is he a passer? Is he a runner? Is he somebody who can, likes to take shots to the edge of the box? I'm still trying to work out what it is he really does, and I suppose that's because we very rarely see him. But whenever he comes in, there's been a couple of times where I might think back to he plucked out of nowhere to start against Motherwell last season when the team was really down to the bare bones, and he started a great game, scored a really good goal, and then I think he got injured the next week, and that was him again for weeks before we saw him again. So sort of sums what Rangers' luck's been like in terms of that front for the last few while.
I think it feeds into it though, doesn't it? That you're absolutely right about Dowell. It is hard to pin any specific sort of talent set on him. He can do a little bit of everything, I guess, kind of in a 6 out of 10 style. But I think what adds to the frustration from Rangers fans is, again, I'm going to bring up a name that Daniel won't want to hear, is Yanis Hadji, and you've got guys like Todd Cantwell. And these are two talented players, difference makers, potential game changers in the final third. And now they're looking at, Kieran Dill's the guy that survives and he stays. And I don't think he's ever going to be considered in that bracket in terms of a guy that might just be able to unlock something or change the course of a game with a pass or a little bit of individual skill. I guess that must feed into the frustrations as well a little bit. That looks like a squad filler, Kieran Dill. Mm-hmm. And these two guys were potentially on their day match winners. And so that's a sort of circle that needs squaring, I think, anyway.
Andy, you've served your penance, I think. It's been an absolute pleasure having you.
Go and get a Bloody Mary down you.
I was going to say.
An appointment with the sofa boys, so I'm waiting to bury my head on a pillow. So.
But everyone watching at home, fear not, because we've got a super sub to bring on. Please welcome Record Sports' Craig Swan. How's it going, Swanee?
Hi, Daniel. How are you? Hi, Keith.
All right, Swanee.
Yeah, good. Thank you.
Andy,
I love when you leave his voice. So.
Cheers, Andy. It's been a pleasure.
Andy.
Cheers, troops.
And we will then we'll now turn our attention across Glasgow to Celtic. Swanee, you were at Celtic Park yesterday for Celtic's 2-0 victory over Hearts. They weren't at their best, Celtic, but 3 points. And I think I'm right in saying the big talking points was the 2 penalty calls.
Yeah, obviously they were going to be discussed after the game. Stephen Naismith obviously felt that, it was either both should be given or both should not be given. They've been dissected on the television last night as, the reasons why the VAR officials came to advise referee calling Stephen in the way that they did. And to be honest, the first one was obviously a big moment in the sense that had Hearts got the first goal, would it have changed the game? I'm not completely sure myself whether they would have been able to hang on, but you never know. You never know how they would have reacted. But at the end of the day, the correct calls appeared to be made by the letter of the law, the letter of the T-shirt line and the letter of the handout line and the law according to Willie. So we they got there in the end. The one thing I will say is, Daniel, the length of time it took for the two decisions to be made. Listen, you don't mind time being taken to get to the correct decisions, in games, but it felt like a long time yesterday. A really long time. You shouldn't have taken that long. Thought we were getting past that point. Thought we were getting quicker and it was getting slicker, the whole operation. But yesterday was a sad drawback to the first season, unfortunately. But I think we made in the end, it seems. So it's all about.
I think, Swanee, that wee Willie might have kind of jumped in too soon with having his kind of media debrief or his YouTube sort of chat, because that, you were kind of thinking, right, okay, well, now you've done that, wait, you see, there'll be a couple of VAR disasters this weekend.
Hasn't the YouTube show been in the Odeon? It'll be 3 hours long. Popcorn and a break at half time for a 99.
Aye, and Willie won't be fronting up, it'll be John Moore.
yeah.
But I mean, that that it did take too long. That shouldn't be happening. No. But at least it wasn't as bad as what went on at St Mirren.
Yeah.
Well, look, we'll come to that a bit later, but see, on the Celtic game, we've had a couple of comments sent in specifically on the penalties. Stephen Maguire, the Hearts player touched the ball with both hands, the clearest penalty you'll ever see. Paul Young, this is not up for debate. Scales was hit above the T-shirt line, so no pen, which has been the rule long enough. Penrice's hands were away from his body and changed the ball's direction. Robert Meehan gets straight to the point. If you can't see the difference, then you haven't a clue about football. I mean, I get that obviously Naismith said, as you say, Swanee, that, if one's given, the other has to be given. But Keith, did you think he came to the right decision?
No, he's wrong. Stephen Naismith's wrong. There are shades of grey, as we all know, in the handball rule. But one thing that is black and is white is that if it's above the T-shirt line, as Swanee correctly says, it's not a penalty kick. And you can see the impact. You can see the ball is actually hitting Scales on his shirt.
He was much closer as well. There was nothing he could really do, I thought, Scales.
Well, be that as it may, I mean, there's not much that Penrice can do either. I don't think that Penrice is deliberately trying to handle the ball, but his hand is out. It is close as well. Mm-hmm. But these are two very different incidents. You know, you can see there from that picture, the ball's hit the scales on the shirt. Penrice, his arm's out from his body, and it is below the t-shirt line. So no, that's comparing apples with pears there, and you know, I can understand that Stephen Naismith will be upset about it, but he's entirely wrong in this instance. One's a penalty and one's not.
The one thing I will say, Keith, and I agree with you completely, and I do think Stephen was wrong. He was measured about it, Stephen, and I will say he's been a real supporter of VAR, and he's been one of the ones who hasn't gone crazy about it in the past and all that. He really believes in trying to make things better, and he doesn't like getting after officials or anything like that. So he was measured. He wasn't jumping up and down, you know. And listen, you can understand him. Things are just going against Hearts at the moment. It just it feels like any wee bad stroke of luck. I mean, I spoke to him at the press conference prior to the game, and he was talking about the previous match against Dundee United. I know I'm winding back before the international break, but he did make the point. You know, Dundee United scored with a deflected goal that crept in the post. You know, at 0-0, Hearts have got a deflected shot that goes like a millimetre past. It just feels like everything that can go wrong for Hearts just now is going wrong. And
yeah,
it's difficult not to feel for him yesterday in some way, shape, even though the calls were exactly correct and Celtic really deserved to win.
It's one of your feeling for him just for the fact that in this terrible run of results that he's on, it's Celtic away. It's the next fixture. Is again another example of wretched luck, a wretched time. But it's not a pretty picture now, is it? When you look at the league table and see Hearts anchored at the bottom, what is it, 1 point from a possible 15?
Oh, it's terrible.
Miles behind Aberdeen. Yeah. You know, miles behind Dundee United, even though Dundee United lost today. So the pressure is beginning to build. You can understand why he would be frustrated with these penalty decisions yesterday. But the bottom line is, by hook or by crook, and even though it might have taken them too long, the referee and the VARs, they came to the right conclusion in the end.
Yeah, 100%.
It's worth saying as well that on Hearts fixtures, obviously a really tough one today, but they're away to St Mirren next week, then home to Ross County.
By the way, away to St Mirren's not a nice fixture either.
I know, that's what I'm saying. That's tough. Then away to Minsk, then away to Aberdeen. I mean, that is a brutal run, you know, particularly for what they're going through at the minute. I mean, Stephen Naismith, I don't even know how to sum up how much pressure he's under. It feels like it is just building week on week on him. It's kind of hard not to feel for him after such a good season last season.
Yeah,
they just need to find a way to win a game. They just need to get a win in the ball, and hopefully for their sake that'll get them up and running. But as you said, Daniel, nothing comes easy in this league. They've made heavy weather at the start. Listen, we've spoken to our blue in the face earlier on the season about the amount of bodies have been brought in to cover the European scene, and has there been too much chopping and changing and all that stuff. So they're just going to need to streamline it and sort it out. I mean, I thought yesterday they did all they could. I mean, listen, Stephen Naismith had clearly learned his lesson from watching Rangers a fortnight previously. You don't go press high at Celtic Park or you get ripped to shreds. So it was basically 5, sit in, shield, the midfield players shielding the back boys, and just try and plug all gaps and don't leave any space in behind. But it's just a very, very difficult thing to do, you know.
Swan, obviously not being there, I just watched the highlights. Tell me, what was your take on Lon Shankland? Because see, when you analyse the difference this season for Hearts between what's gone on so far this season and what happened last season and the season before, Shankland's contribution has to be a major part of that. And you wonder, as the events of the summer, the fact that he's you know, there was talk of trying to get him a new contract, and that seemed to end badly. Then there was all the links with Rangers. Does Shankland look the same Lon Shankland that we've seen over the last couple of years, or you know, how did it look at the weekend? Was he as engaged as you would have expected him to be?
Yeah, he was trying. I mean, the one thing I'll say for, you know, he was giving everything he could. The one thing I'll say for Lon Shankland and Kenneth Vargas yesterday was there's not much you can do when there's 70 yards between you and a teammate.
Yeah.
He had no chance yesterday. The midfield guys, and you can't blame them. They were trying, you know, they were tracking runners and they were covering in, and just the way Hearts played the game, the separation between the back line, the midfield boys, and the boys who were Shankland obviously trying to operate in that middle section, but tracking back half the time and trying to help the midfield. Hearts are trying to hit Kenneth Vargas far too early. Celtic are just winning it back, and it's wave after wave. They can't get out. So he didn't have it. He had no chance. No chance yesterday. Now, I can't speak for a lot of the other games. I haven't seen them. By all accounts, he's not up to speed. course he's not up to speed. You look at his goal return and that's, and you look at Hearts' overall goal return, then it's clear he's not up to speed. But no, there was certainly no lack of effort. I mean, he did look forlorn yesterday, but I challenge any striker not to look forlorn the way that game went yesterday. You'd no chance.
Yeah, but you look at the percentage that he was responsible for of Hearts' goals last season, and so it does seem like a fairly obvious start answer. If Hearts are going to pick up, they need him to start scoring goals again.
And the other thing is, our columnist Ryan Stevenson was big on this last year when he said other guys have to chip in, other people have to come up with goals. Lawrence Shankland was absolutely brilliant last season.
Yeah,
but you and I both know. A lot of us know it was one of those seasons that you just rarely have. I was at Paisley one night. He's hooking balls over his shoulder and they're dropping in the top corner for equalisers. He's hitting everything he hits turned to gold last year and hit the net. You don't often get seasons like that where everything just goes in. And Lon Shankland had one of them last year. And the Hearts players didn't chip in to help him enough last year. Now, when he really needs them, there's no one there again.
Yeah, I mean, it's just it's one of these, and you wonder in the fullness of time, we'll only then will we get the answer. But Hearts were in a situation in the summer where they were asking for significant money if they were going to part company with Lawrence Shankland. Theory behind that was simple enough, and Stephen Dainsmith explained it. If we let this guy leave for less, his goals could be the difference between us qualifying for Europe again. So he can pay for himself, and they don't need to accept a smaller offer when potentially his goals could be worth as much as £5 million over the course of a campaign. But that's what I'm saying. We won't know until the end of the season, or at least midway through it. Was that a good decision or a bad decision? Because
we won't know that. I mean, what Hearts have in the first 5 fixtures, Hearts have played Celtic and Rangers. I mean, you never know until you get to the end of the first quarter and you start to get an idea of when things level out. It's been mentioned before. Hearts had a bad start last season, came through it. Lawrence Shankland's the kind of guy that goes on streaks and runs.
Yes,
he scores 12 and 12 last season. I think he's done it before, 9 and 8, and the season before maybe. So he goes on runs. Hearts can go on a run. I don't think there's any doubt. I think we need to let it level out a wee bit. I understand the temperature is pretty hot around about Tynecastle just now. Hearts fans are not going to enjoy picking up the paper and seeing their team at the bottom of the league. Of course they're not. But you've got to give it time. You've got to just give it a chance to level itself out.
But Daniel says, and he points out quite rightly, that's another difficult stretch of games that we're going into just now. So
they need to deliver. They need to deliver, Keith. That's it. I mean, there's only so long me or anyone else can sit there and say you've got to give it time to level out. Blah blah blah. They need to go and do it.
Yeah,
they have to go and do it, and soon.
Going back to Celtic, Swanee, I'd be interested to get your take on Arne Engels. Jake has written in said before. We got him how good Engels is and how good a football IQ is. His passing and his sight for players is first class. This lad is starting to develop into an unbelievable player. His first start and obviously first goal yesterday, Swanee, were you impressed by what you saw?
Oh, smooth as silk. Absolutely.
Really?
Yeah, really, really good. Do you know what it reminded me of? Keith, you've sat next to you in many European and international games.
Mm-hmm.
See so many players playing for opposition teams, whether foreign club teams or foreign international teams, guys, big physiques. And when we have, technical players, they tend to be in the smaller side, or you have the bigger guys, they tend to be a bit lumpier and a bit more clumsy. And you look at international midfield players, they're 6 foot plus and they're smooth as silk and they move the ball brilliantly. And this boy does that.
Who does he remind you of?
Every inch. I'm not going to make comparisons to players, Keith. That's not the way. But I think the boy's going to make a name for himself. But you don't want to go overboard. But you don't play that many games in the Bundesliga, and you don't get into the Belgian senior national team if you've not got it. So he clearly has. But I think there was aspects. Celtic fans got to see everything yesterday. I think that was the thing that they were most excited about, and the fact that a ton of goals left when Matt O'Reilly went to Brighton. Within the first 15 minutes yesterday, Engels is in the box, hit one wide. He's hit the inside of the post with his other foot. 2 cracks at goal with one with either foot. He's making breaking runs into the box. He's playing passes, lovely flicks, lovely touches, great vision, as the caller said. But also there was a couple of instances yesterday when he lost the ball, and he does the dirty work as well. Drafting in, running, chasing back, nicking possession back. He looks like he's got the full package now. Listen, as I say, it's early days, and it's all about consistency. He's got to do it out, but the signs are very, very good.
He obviously slots the penalty as well, Swanee. That was an interesting decision from Callum McGregor, I thought, and I think probably an example of why he's such an inspirational captain. Either that, or he's been watching this kid in the training pitch and he just thinks that he's out of this world and he's been, hitting penalties. But it seemed to me as if that was welcome to Celtic, son. Go and get yourself a goal.
Absolutely, yeah. I think that's a fair comment, Keith. And listen, I don't think anybody would pretend that. I was laughing with someone at the game yesterday. I said that if Celtic could find someone who could score 100% of penalties, he'd probably be worth $5 million on his own, because our penalty record's absolutely terrible. Everybody was getting a chance last year and kept missing them. So why not give it to the new boy and give him a chance to go take one? And if he slots everyone that they get, then that's going to be a very healthy boost to his goal scoring tally. And Brendan Rodgers says he wants to add goals to his game. So I can't pretend to be an expert on his career in the Bundesliga. I don't know exactly what position he was operating in, but he looked to me, listening to Brendan Rodgers before the game yesterday, it seemed to be that he was talking maybe a wee bit of the shackle off, and he may be the type of player who might, hipster about it, an old style 8, get in the box and help when you haven't got the ball, and when you've got it, get in the box and try and score, like proper midfield players used to do back in the day.
I think it's worth mentioning as well that Celtic obviously still haven't conceded a goal in the Premiership, and I believe it's the first time since 1906 that a team in the top flight in Scotland has started their season not conceding a goal in their first 5 games. I mean, I know it's Celtic, I know they're the strongest team in the league, but that is still really impressive. I mean, they were under the cosh a little bit times yesterday. Hearts had a couple of good chances, obviously the penalty shout, but that is an amazing stat, really, when you think about it.
I wouldn't say they were under the cosh. At any
we
time.
had one cleared off the line, didn't they? Under the cosh, a bit strong. There
was one ball into the box when Alistair Johnson didn't have a good game yesterday, actually, for Alistair Johnson's standards. He just looked to be a bit off it. First touch like me, and Blaise Biddle robbed him and delivered the ball into the box, and a Hearts substitute, miss a drama. Really should have got a stronger touch on it, but that was, and obviously you've seen the penalty incident. And Lon Shepard was forced to try and hit one from about 100 yards at one point to try and beat Kasper Schmeichel. But that was about it. No, the Celtic have defended really, really strongly. Listen, Brendan Rodgers makes a great point about how that, and it's an oldest cliche in the book, but it starts from the front, but it does. When you've got gangs like Callum McGregor, I mean, Cameron Carter-Vickers is fantastic at going and winning the first ball. So in the halfway line, when anybody tries to get out, which then keeps the team's half, and then keeps the waves, keeps the press, keeps the pushing and the pressing forward going. But the rest of the team, you look at Dyson Maeda, Callum McGregor, Engels yesterday, Hatate doesn't mind putting a shift in, Kyogo, you saw it in the Old Firm game, chasing back to 70 yards to make a challenge at Eddie's box. They all do it. So they're getting fabulous protection. And then guys like Greg Taylor and Alistair Johnson generally have been. Greg Taylor was terrific again yesterday. Just so understated, just does everything nice and simple and just gets on, does a job great. And that new contract won't come fast enough.
If you're Austin Trusty, obviously £6 million, a lot of money, you kind of wonder how you're going to get in the team the way Celtic are playing at the minute. I mean, Scales I thought was really good yesterday again.
Yeah, Scales has been terrific this season. I think he's actually gone up another level, Scales. It's funny because you do see sporadic moments of growth in players under Brendan Rodgers where they're good, they're ticking along fine, and then all of a sudden, wow, he's went up a different level. And I think I'm seeing that in Scales this season. He was always impressive enough. All right, he came into the team in difficult circumstances, lack of options, a complete lack of options, which is why he played. And he did really, really well to nail down that position, to stay in the team, to be dependable. This season, I think I see a difference in him. I see a big improvement in him again. I think he's coming on leaps and bounds. You will see that with players under Brendan Rodgers at particular times. I think Matt O'Reilly was one who really benefited from Brendan's arrival. And he, had a terrific season last season. He was already a top player, but he just looked as if he went up a few percent for me. I see something similar happening with Scales just now. And funnily enough, Greg Taylor's another. He's always been really dependable left back for Celtic. I think he flourished under Ange Postecoglou, getting that freedom to play the inverted role. But I think he's coming on again. I think there's an improvement in him as well. That's what you're looking for. Celtic are miles out in front of everybody else. Let's be blunt about it. They are miles out. And this team is only going to get better. And it was only a few weeks ago, I'll remind you, because I might remind you of this throughout the course of the season, certainly well towards the end of it, if it's right. But I did predict that Celtic will bust through the 100-point barrier in the league this season. And I have seen absolutely nothing to make me change my mind about that.
Sorry, go on, Dan.
No, go ahead, Sonny.
I was just going to say, we spoke about it on Hotline Live a couple of weeks ago, Keith. We were talking about, Brendan Rodgers has been looking to try and bring the vibrancy and keep the energy levels up and having the talent supply to bring from the bench. I mean, you've talked about Austin Trusty. They've also got the fullback for Barcelona, Alec Bice, come in.
Yeah.
They haven't played yet. But yesterday, Luke McCowan's confidence and composure to play from outside his own box yesterday to end up scoring the goal was absolutely fabulous. Him and Paulo Bernardo, who was arguably a man of the match contender. Well, I was going to say, sorry, he was a man of the match contender, arguably the man of the match against Rangers in his last game. They didn't start. You're replacing Engels and Rio Hatate with those two boys.
Yeah.
Terrific. Adam Ida's probably looked like he's needed some minutes. I don't know whether the games into his legs with Ireland when he was on the international duty made a difference, but he looked sharp yesterday again. Mm-hmm. The goal ruled out for offside was a great run across the front, across the face of the defender, near post finish, a Kyogo finish. He also made a couple of breaking runs in behind. He wasn't spotted for the pass, and he would have been through 1-on-1. This is what they're bringing off the bench now. This is what they've got at their disposal. And I think to back up your point of the points total, Keith, it's hard to see them dropping levels. Mm-hmm. You've got guys like that to bring from the bench, And
that level of competition, Swanee.
Sorry?
They've got that level of competition. It's not, they can make these changes and there's not going to be a vast drop-off in quality anymore. And not only that, but the guys who are getting onto the pitch, they know they've got 10, 15, 20 minutes, however long they've got to go out there and make an impression, to do something, to make sure that we're in the thinking for the next. That's everything that Brendan Rodgers has been looking to create since he came back to the club. I think it's taken him a year to get there, but he's there now with this squad. I think they look in great shape.
And the 5-sub thing is also a massive, because you can make very, very rarely in a football game would you ever really change your back four.
Yeah.
Would you? So 9 times out of 10 at the half-hour mark, you can basically change 5 of your front 6. Mm-hmm. Callum McGregor's probably going to stay there all the time unless he's going to break. But even if, I don't know if anybody recognises a first-choice Celtic 11 at the moment. We can kind of gauge 8 or 9 of them, but there's a couple of positions up for grabs. But you could basically take in your own head what you think is the second choice, if you like. And then you can bring on Kyogo, Rio Hatate, Engels, if you decide to give them a day off after half an hour. You've still got after an hour, you've still got half an hour to go and win the game. Nice. It's going to be very difficult for anybody to stay with Celtic if they stay at their form.
And that's why, Swanee, what we're saying is that Brendan Rodgers had this in his mind's eye going into the Champions League campaign where he is able to make these changes. Yeah. And they are still going to be easily strong enough to take care of business on the Saturday, or on the Saturday for a punishing midweek schedule, travel or whatever. He now, and this is for the first time, possibly over both these spells, by the way, the first time you would look at that squad and say, well, it's really equipped. It is genuinely equipped.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is, you listen to him speak, and this is just the start. They're already the eyes on January and the next ones, and then the next one. It doesn't just stop here. They want to try and progress and make some progress in the Champions League and get on. If you start to win some games there and get a foothold, I don't imagine Celtic or Brendan Rodgers are going to be like, oh, that's great. We've won a couple of games, fantastic. That's only going to make you think, wow, another couple of players. How many more games can we win? Mm-hmm. Where can we go next? So I think it's just the start. And look, we talk with the great new buzz phrase, all this stuff about Rangers player trading models and all this stuff. You look at the guys, look at the money that's going to be coming in as well. Never mind Champions League money. Yeah. What are you going to get for Rio Hatate? What are you going to get for Alistair Johnson? What are you going to get if you decide to sell Cameron Carter-Vickers? What's Engels going to fetch in time?
Yeah.
It's just constantly, you just look like there's a player that can go Matt O'Reilly style every year. Back to the old days of what it was at Celtic, won a season, and that tops it up. And he's top up with the Champions League money. Wow, it's so exciting for Celtic supporters at the moment because it's just going to get better, I think.
And obviously, this coming week, it's the start of the Champions League campaign, and the Hotline Live will be with you all through the week, previewing that. Before we go, guys, time's against us, but before we go, I have to talk about Aberdeen. I have to quickly mention Jimmy Teelan, because the reigning Premiership Manager of the Month, I know, Keith, we thought it might have been the kiss of death winning that award last week, but another 3 points against Motherwell, Papi Gay with a double. Look, I know you both will probably say we can't tell anything till they've played, at least one or both of the Old Firm. But Aberdeen fans are getting really excited. Will McGovern has written in saying, we've been brilliant, been to all the home games so far, and the difference in style and work rate from last season is outrageous. Early days, of course, but Teelan's been fantastic. Exciting times to be an Aberdeen fan.
Absolutely. And listen, I'm not going to jump to jump into saying anything that I haven't actually said already. When Jimmy Teelan first kind of came up as the potential candidate for Aberdeen, you looked into him, thought, I like the sound of this guy. I just like the way he talks about football. I like his ideas for how he wants the game played. I like his philosophy. I like the fact he's front foot. It's high tempo. It's aggressive. And you just knew that's what Aberdeen have been crying out for some time. He's got off to an incredible start. 10 wins. I mean, that's better than Sir Alex Ferguson.
Yeah.
What about Papi Guy's Gareth Bale goal? Gareth Bale goal, wasn't it? Just knock it into space down the line into grass and just whoosh. Just race to the edge of the box, give the keeper the eyes and whip it from 20 yards out of the other corner. I was like, what?
These things happen. These things happen when you've got momentum building, Swanee. That looks like a team so full of confidence, so full of belief, so full of energy. The fans have engaged with them. Pittodrie's bouncing again. It just feels like a good place to be right now, and I'm delighted about that. We really need Aberdeen to punch their weight. This season they might punch above their weight, and that's going to be the really interesting thing. Just to finish off on this, my view is obviously Celtic are in a league of their own in terms of the title. Aberdeen have set such a strong pace coming out the blocks here. All they need to try and do is cling on to Celtic's coattails for as long as possible. Make themselves competitive. I think obviously they'll find it difficult in the games against Celtic, maybe not so much in the games against Rangers. But if they can take care of everybody else along the way, then I think they can. I'm not saying they're going to go the distance in terms of taking it to the last day of the season or even in the last few weeks, but I think they can really announce themselves as a top six side, and they might run Celtic closer than any of us imagined.
Mm-hmm. I'll very much take the Hearts approach with it. and let it out. And listen, I'm not on a downer about it. I think it's fantastic, and it's great seeing Pittodrie packed, and you want another club up there fighting and punching at the top of the league. But I'll wait for the next 10 games, see how they go, and then I'll make a better judgment then, I'd say.
Well, they've got Celtic at Celtic Park on the 19th of October.
Miserable squad, aren't
They've got Celtic on 19th of October away and Rangers at home on the 30th of October. Pittodrie is going to be absolutely bouncing for that one. I can't wait for them to play the Old Firm. It'll be great. As for today, I think that brings us to the end of today's Hotline Live with Record Sport. I should say, if you wrote in with any comments, we really appreciate it. And we'll be back to do it all again tomorrow night at 6 p.m. Keith, Swanee, it's always a pleasure. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks, Daniel. Thanks, Keith.
Cheers.
And thanks for watching at home. Cheers.
Cheers, guys.